For years, we've watched her, a human hurricane from Hazelhurst, Georgia, who crashed onto our screens and into the life of a young Nigerian man named Michael. Angela Deem. The name itself has become synonymous with a certain brand of reality television chaos. We've seen her smash a cake in Michael's face. Not in playful jest, but with the raw fury of a woman scorned. We've watched her storm through Nigerian markets and airports. A whirlwind of blonde extensions and Marlboro-fueled indignation. The screaming matches, the accusations, the tearful reconciliations, the threats of divorce that come as regularly as the turning of the seasons. She is the unfiltered eye of the day. Fiancé universe. Its reigning monarch of chaos. The unapologetic, loud, brash Mima we love to hate and hate to admit. We can't stop watching. We thought we were watching a messy international love story. We thought we were watching reality television. But what if I told you we weren't? What if we were actually watching the most audacious, long-running psychological experiment ever conducted in public view? What if the Angela Deem we know isn't real at all? Welcome to the Tell-All Tapes, the channel that peels back the curtain on the show you think you know. We dig through the digital breadcrumbs and connect the dots that producers hope you'll never see. If you believe there's always a deeper story, a truth hidden just beneath the surface of the official narrative, then you've found your home. To make sure you never miss an investigation and to join our community of truth seekers, take a second to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Ring the notification bell because today we are dismantling an icon. The story you are about to hear may seem impossible. It may sound like fiction. But as we present the evidence, the insider reports, and the exclusive theories, you will be forced to ask yourself one terrifying question. Who is Angela D? Our story, this rabbit hole, begins not on a television set, but in the quiet, obscure corners of the internet. It starts on a niche forum, a message board, frequented by graduate students, psychology PhD candidates, and university researchers. The forum is a place for dry academic debate on behavioral science and experimental ethics. But on an otherwise unremarkable Tuesday night, an anonymous user posted a single file. There was no explanation. Just a cryptic title, phase compliance. Report audio sample. The file was a second audio clip, heavily distorted, filled with static and a low hum as if it were recorded secretly on a cheap device. Most users dismissed it as spam or a prank. But a few, intrigued by the title, downloaded it, and what they heard sent a shockwave through their small academic community. Through the static, two voices could be heard. The first, a man's. His voice was calm, measured, with the distinct passionless tone of a clinical academic. He asked, "How is emotional transference affecting the subject's baseline behavior?" There's a pause, the sound of papers shuffling. And then a woman replies. Her voice is the true anomaly. It is shockingly clear, articulate, intelligent, and utterly devoid of any regional accent, let alone the thick southern drawl of a Georgia native. Her response was chilling. The meme construct is proving remarkably Resilient, she says, her words precise. And analytical. The primary subject, Michael, remains fully compliant with the established parameters. The network is completely unaware they're documenting a long-form study on manufactured identity and induced FOI. The clip ended there. The forum exploded. What was this? Was it a hoax? A clip from a movie? The terms used, construct subject compliance, were straight out of a research paper. The mention of a network and a subject named Michael was too specific to ignore for fans of a certain reality show. 1. User, a doctoral student in forensic linguistics, had a wild idea. He ran the female voice through a sophisticated voice print analysis software, a program called Spectrum Match, which compares dozens of unique vocal characteristics, pitch, cadence, formant frequencies to create a unique biometric signature. He needed a clean sample of Angela Deem's voice to compare it to a clip without background music or other people talking. He found one in a cameo video. She had recorded a simple birthday message. He fed both samples into the program. The forum waited. Hours later, he posted the results. A single screenshot showing the two voice signatures side by side. The conclusion at the bottom of the screen was stark. % voice print match. The implication was staggering. The calm academic woman in the audio clip, the one discussing a meme construct as if it were a lab rat in a maze, was with near certainty Angela Deem herself. The clip was quickly deleted by the forum moderators, and the anonymous user who posted it vanished. But it was too late. The audio had been copied, shared, and was already beginning to mutate into a legend. If this audio was real, then the entire Angela and Michael saga was not a relationship, but a study. Angela wasn't a participant in a reality show. She was the lead scientist, and we, the audience, were watching her experiment unfold without a clue. This radical theory sent online sleuths into a frenzy. If Angela was secretly a brilliant academic, there had to be a trail. The first step was to build a profile of her life before day fiancé. This is where the story gets even stranger. There was almost nothing for a woman who lives her life so loudly and publicly. Her past was a digital black hole. We know she was born in. We know she's from Hazelhurst, Georgia. Her stated profession has always been hospice care assistant, a noble but difficult to verify job with high turnover and often informal records. But beyond that, nothing. No social media presence to speak of before the year she first appeared on television on an episode of My No High School Yearbook. Photos surfacing on fan pages. No old friends from her S sharing anecdotes. It was as if she simply materialized into the public consciousness, fully formed as the brash cigarette smoking Mima. The official narrative just didn't hold up under scrutiny. Why does a woman so desperate for the spotlight have such a private, almost non-existent past? Was it just a quiet life? Or was it a deliberately scrubbed one? The search for the real Angela became an obsession for a small group of online investigators. They weren't looking for Scandalous photos or old boyfriends. They were looking for a ghost. A digital archaeologist, a researcher who specializes in recovering data from defunct websites and forgotten corners of the internet, took up the challenge. He used archives, cached data from old search engines, and the Wayback Machine to crawl through the digital graveyards of the late S. He focused his search on Georgia-based universities and colleges, cross-referencing faculty lists and event calendars with Angela's known name and age. For weeks, there was nothing. And then he found it. A single broken link on a cached version of a small private university's website. A university known for its well-funded but highly progressive sociology department. The link led to a promotional flyer for a series of guest lectures from the fall semester of. The flyer was for a graduate-level seminar titled Modern Ethnography and Subcultural Performance. And thereon, the list of speakers nestled between a doctor of anthropology and a published author was a single innocuous line. October th, a Deem performative identity and Appalachian subcultures. A Deem the connection was electric. It was more than a smoking gun. It was a Rosetta Stone for this entire conspiracy. The topic itself, performative identity, was a perfect mirror of the theory. It's the academic study of how individuals craft and perform a version of themselves to fit into a specific social group or subculture. Was this it? Was this the proof that Angela wasn't just living a stereotype, but that she was a professional student of it? The discovery of the lecture combined with the leaked audio painted an entirely new and terrifying portrait. This wasn't a woman from Georgia looking for love. This was a highly intelligent academic, an expert in her field who had seemingly erased her own past to become the very subject she once studied. The question was no longer if she was performing, but why? Why would a brilliant sociologist trade a life of academia for the chaos of reality TV? The answer, it turns out, was far more ambitious and disturbing than anyone could have imagined. She wasn't just studying a subculture. She was creating one. The breadcrumbs, the audio, the scrubbed past, the university lecture were compelling, but they were still just fragments. To build the full picture, we needed a voice from the inside. And then that voice found us. An anonymous email arrived in the inbox for this channel, the tell-all tapes. The sender claimed to be a former research assistant from the very same university psychology department mentioned on the deleted flyer. For their own safety and career, they insisted on complete anonymity. They said they had followed our channel and felt it was the only place that would take their story seriously. They were terrified, they said, because they weren't just breaking a non-disclosure agreement. They were exposing a decade-long ethically bankrupt human experiment masterminded by their former professor and mentor. A brilliant, radical, and dangerously persuasive sociologist they knew by another name, but who the world now knew as Angela Deem. According to this whistleblower, the woman we know as Angela was in the late essay respected but controversial figure in her field. She was a professor who believed traditional methods of sociological research, surveys, controlled studies, passive observation were sterile and Outdated. She argued that to truly understand human behavior, you couldn't just watch it from behind a two-way mirror. You had to get inside the system. You had to become a catalyst. Her grand theory, the one that got her ostracized by the university's ethics committee, was that the burgeoning world of reality television was the perfect, unregulated laboratory for human behavior. It was a self-contained ecosystem with its own rules, its own social hierarchies, and a population of subjects who had already consented to being observed. Her question was simple yet profound. Could a completely manufactured, abrasive, and stereotypical persona not only survive in that environment, but actually thrive? And more importantly, what effect would this manufactured personality, this agent of chaos, have on the authentic individuals around her? She called her theory the Mima method. It was a bold, terrifying proposal for a long-form ethnographic study where the ethnographer was also the subject of the experiment. The university, fearing lawsuits and a massive ethical scandal, formally rejected her proposal and denied her tenure. But according to the whistleblower, she didn't give up. She simply took her experiment underground. She resigned from her post, wiped her academic history, and began to build her cover identity. She spent years meticulously crafting the Angela Deem persona, adopting the accent, the mannerisms, the backstory. She first tested the waters on shows like Maury, learning how to manipulate producers and generate conflict. Then she found the perfect ecosystem for her grand experiment. Fiancé, a show that provided the ideal variables, cultural clashes, high stakes, emotional investment, and international distance, which would allow her to control the narrative and maintain the experiment with less risk of constant real-world exposure. The whistleblower claimed that everything we've seen, every fight, every tear, every trip to Nigeria has been a carefully orchestrated part of her research. She wasn't looking for a husband. She was looking for a variable. And she found the perfect one in Michael Ilesanmi. This is perhaps the most shocking and controversial claim from our source, the one that reframes the entire narrative. Michael was not a victim of a scam, nor was he an innocent man who fell for a loud American woman. According to the whistleblower, Michael's role in this decade-long drama was as clear and defined as Angela's. He was the primary subject of the experiment. The control group of 1. The source alleges that Michael was never just a lover. He was a recruit. He was allegedly found through a third-party casting agent in Nigeria who specialized in providing local talent for international productions. Though this production was far from ordinary, he was reportedly given a detailed briefing, not on a TV show, but on a long-term social interaction study. He was offered a life-changing amount of money for his participation, a sum that would not only secure his own future, but that of his entire family. His role was simple: to be the calm, unwavering anchor against which the hurricane of the Mima construct would crash. His unwavering patience, his tolerance for verbal abuse, his almost superhuman ability to remain placid in the face of her explosive rage. The whistleblower insists this isn't a sign of love or a desperate desire for a green card. It is contractual compliance. To support this explosive claim, the source provided a document, a redacted bank statement, showing a series of quarterly wire transfers. The transfers were not from Angela Deem or from the television network. They came from a shell corporation, a limited liability company, based in Delaware with an impossibly vague name, Socioenetic Dynamics Incorporated. The recipient was an account in Lagos belonging to a member of Michael's immediate family. The amount of each transfer was exactly $4 times a year for years. The math is staggering. It's a salary that far exceeds anything he could earn from the show itself. It is, the whistleblower claims, his payment for being the most convincing actor in this entire production. With this new lens, we must re-examine every scene we've ever witnessed between them. Watch again. The moment she throws the cake in his face, his reaction is not anger or humiliation. It is a flicker of surprise, followed by a placid acceptance. It's the reaction of an employee, not a fiancé. Watch his face during the tell alls as Angela screams at other cast members and storms off set. There is no embarrassment, no fear. There is the calm, detached observation of someone who knows it's all part of the show, a performance he is being paid handsomely to endure. He is not her partner in life. He is her partner in research. His stoicism is his job. His purpose is to absorb the chaos of the Mima construct and remain unchanged, allowing the real Angela to document the effects of her creation in a controlled manner. The whistleblower then provided a detailed deconstruction of the Mima persona itself, revealing it not as a genuine personality, but as a collection of carefully chosen, exaggerated traits, each with a specific experimental purpose. It's a masterclass in character creation designed for maximum impact within the reality TV ecosystem. First, the voice and the accent. The source claims that the real Angela's speech is, as heard in the leaked audio, standard unaccented American English. The thick Southern draw is an affectation. It was intentionally exaggerated to align with a specific, easily recognizable American stereotype, the unruly Southern woman. This stereotype serves a dual purpose. It provides a shorthand for the audience, making the character instantly readable and predictable. And it also acts as a form of social camouflage, allowing her to get away with behavior that would be deemed unacceptable from someone perceived as more educated or sophisticated. It's a weaponized accent, a tool that lets her control the narrative by playing into a pre-existing caricature. Next, aggression. The screaming, the confrontations, the constant state of high alert. This is the primary tool of the experiment. The whistleblower explains that this isn't genuine anger. It's a controlled stimulus. In any social situation, from a dinner with Michael's family to a tell-all stage with other cast members, the Mima construct uses explosive aggression to dominate the environment. This allows her to control every interaction, to dictate the emotional tenor of a room. And most importantly for the show, to create constant narrative conflict. Producers love it because it's a guarantee of drama. For the experiment, It's a method of applying psychological pressure to the other subjects, both Michael and the surrounding cast, to see how they react. Will they cower? Will they fight back? Will they try to appease her? Every reaction is data. Every fight is a field test. Then there are the insecurities which are presented as the character's primary motivation. The obsession with her weight, her age, and her fear of Michael leaving her for a younger woman. The whistleblower alleges that these are not deep-seated personal fears, but deliberately amplified character traits. They were crafted to create a relatable yet volatile character arc. These insecurities justify her aggression and her controlling behavior, giving a reason for the chaos she creates. They generate sympathy from a segment of the audience while simultaneously providing the fuel for her most dramatic outbursts. The constant plastic surgeries, the weight loss journey. These are not just personal choices. They are public plot points designed to keep the character evolving and to maintain audience engagement in her struggle. They make the construct appear vulnerable and human, masking the cold, calculating mind that lies beneath. And finally, the small, seemingly insignificant character quirks. The most prominent of these is the obsession with Coca-Cola. We see her with a Coke in her hand constantly. She even once demanded a doctor give her a Coke after a medical procedure. To the audience, it's a funny, memorable quirk. But according to the source, it's a classic tool of character design known as a behavioral anchor. It's a simple, memorable, and easily repeatable trait that makes the construct more believable and consistent. Just as a fictional detective might always smoke a pipe or wear a certain coat, Mima always has a Coke. It's a piece of stage craft, a prop that grounds the performance and adds a layer of artificial authenticity. It's the final brushstroke on a carefully crafted masterpiece of deception. Each element, from the accent to the Coke, is a gear in a complex machine designed to manipulate not only the people on screen, but the millions of us watching at home. We weren't just the audience. We were the unwitting peer reviewers for her terrifying study. The creation of the Mima persona was a work of meticulous, almost diabolical genius. But the ultimate proof, the document that ties the entire decade-long performance together, was the last thing the whistleblower sent us. It was described as the holy grail of this entire conspiracy, the intellectual blueprint for the chaos we've been watching. They claim it is the title and abstract from Angela's unpublished clandestine thesis, the paper she has been secretly writing for the last years. The final bombshell. The whistleblower leaked the alleged title in abstract, and it is the coldest, most terrifying thing you will ever read in connection with reality television. The title, The Mima Method, a decade-long ethnographic study of identity, performance and emotional contagion within a televised social ecosystem. The abstract reads not like a confession, but like a victory lap from a master manipulator. It begins, this longitudinal study documents the successful deployment of a manufactured high-conflict persona, designated Mima, within the semi-controlled environment of a reality television series. The study's primary objective was to measure the effects of A persistent stereotypical stimulus on A. Designated control subject, a Nigerian male designated Mayor Ilesanmi, and on. The wider fluctuating population of the show's cast. Over a year period, the MIMA construct was utilized to test theories of emotional contagion, conflict resolution, and the commodification of personality. Data was collected via broadcast footage, network-mandated therapy sessions, repurposed as debriefings, and the control subject's compliant reporting. The study concludes that a deliberately abrasive performative identity cannot only survive but achieve a position of social dominance and narrative importance within such an ecosystem, effectively validating the hypothesis that reality television audiences respond more strongly to manufactured archetypes than to authentic human behavior. The paper, according to the source, goes on to include chillingly precise psychological profiles of other cast members, analyzing them not as people, but as data points. It reads like a predator's field guide to its prey. The whistleblower provided excerpts on Colt Johnson. The paper allegedly notes, Subject C. Johnson presents a classic edible complex masked by a facade of intellectual superiority and sexual bravado. The MIMA construct was deployed as a surrogate maternal aggressor by challenging his dominance and emasculating him publicly. The stimulus was designed to trigger his core insecurity, resulting in predictable patterns of passive aggression and retreat to his primary maternal figure, D. Johnson, for validation. On Ed Brown, known as Big Ed, the analysis is even more brutal. Subject E. Brown operates his own low-level performative identity, a construct of faux vulnerability and manufactured charm designed to disarm younger female subjects. The MIMA stimulus through direct and overwhelming alpha aggression was proven to be highly effective at bypassing this defense mechanism. Direct confrontation consistently resulted in the subject's immediate regression to infantile rage and public self-victimization, thereby exposing the fragility of his own construct. The paper even analyzes Usman Soja Boy Umar, who Angela famously feuded with. Subject U. Umar's primary motivation is brand promotion and trans-social media platforming. The MIMA stimulus was calibrated to apply maximum social and psychological pressure while maintaining the viability of the television platform, effectively testing the subject's cost-benefit analysis of continued association. The subject's continued engagement with the network, despite escalating public humiliation at the hands of the Momoa construct, confirms the hypothesis that for certain personality types, perceived career benefit and exposure will consistently outweigh the preservation of personal dignity or social standing. It's a horrifying document. It transforms years of what we thought was spontaneous, messy human drama into a cold, calculated series of stimulus and response experiments. The cast members weren't her co-stars. They were her lab rats, and she was taking notes. But this raises the most profound and chilling question of all. After years of living, breathing, and sleeping inside this meticulously crafted prison of a personality, is there any of the original Angela left? What happens when you wear a mask for so long that your own face begins to conform to its shape? Has the experiment simply gone on for too long? This was the primary fear expressed by the whistleblower. They weren't just afraid of the public finding out. They were afraid for their former professor. They claimed that the lines had become dangerously blurred. The real Angela, the brilliant academic, has been so subsumed by the meme construct that she barely exists anymore. The source claims she only emerges in what she calls debriefing sessions with her academic partner, the unidentified male voice from that first leaked audio clip. These sessions are allegedly the only time she is permitted to drop the accent, to speak as herself, to analyze the data she's collected with clinical detachment. But these sessions, the whistleblower says, have become less frequent. The mask is getting harder to take off, and we may have already seen the cracks in the facade, the moments where the system glitches. You can find it if you know where to look. Scour her social media, specifically her paid cameo videos. In most of them, she is in full performance mode. Loud, brash, yelling her catchphrases for her fans' birthday. But in one video posted about months ago, something happens. She is in the middle of a generic happy anniversary message. She delivers the line, "Y'all better not let him get no side piece now. You hear?" She lets out her signature cackle, but then for just a fraction of a second, the performance drops. It is one of the most unsettling things I have ever seen. Her face goes completely slack. The muscles around her eyes and mouth, usually tensed in a reach of aggression or a forced smile, relax into a blank neutral state. Her eyes, for a fleeting moment, look utterly and terrifyingly empty. Lost. It's as if the pilot has left the cockpit and for a split second all we see is the empty shell. The accent, the personality, the entire meme construct vanishes, replaced by a dead flat silence. And then just as quickly as it disappeared, it's back. She blinks hard. A slight shudder runs through her shoulders, and she snaps back into character, cackling again. The moment gone, erased by the sheer force of the persona. It's a 2C. A terrifying glimpse of the woman trapped inside the monster she created. Which brings us to the endgame. The whistleblower's final ominous warning was that the experiment is now entering its final and most dangerous phase. Phase 3, as it's allegedly called in the research notes, is the culmination of the entire project. For years, the experiment has had a crucial safety valve, distance. Michael was in Nigeria. The performance could be contained to filming periods and video calls. Angela could return home to her private life and, in theory, decompress, but that is all about to change. Phase 3 is the introduction of the primary subject, Michael, into the domestic environment of the United States. The goal is to see what happens when the meme construct has to be maintained not for a few weeks of filming, but hours a day, days a week, with no escape. What happens when the laboratory and the home become one and the same? What happens when the subject is no longer thousands of miles away, but sleeping in the next room? It is the ultimate stress test. A test to see if the construct can withstand constant uninterrupted scrutiny. A test to see what happens when the subject is Finally removed from his support system. And completely isolated with his tormentor, or rather his lead researcher. The whistleblower claims the stated goal of phase is to document the final stages of psychological erosion in the subject or a complete breakdown of the construct itself. Which will break first, Michael's contractual compliance or Angela's sanity? This is what we are watching now. Every new season, every new fight, every tearful threat of divorce is not the dying gasp of a toxic relationship. It is the beginning of the final act. The final shot of our investigation is Angela on the most recent tell-all. Her face is contorted in a mask of pure rage, bright red, screaming, spittle flying from her mouth. She is a spectacle of human misery, a walking car crash of emotion, and the world watches entertained. But we must now ask ourselves, what are we really seeing? Are we watching a heartbroken woman from Georgia having a nervous breakdown on national television? Or are we watching a brilliant twisted sociologist push her own creation, her own mind to the absolute terrifying limit? The experiment is almost over. The data is almost all collected. But the truly terrifying question remains for her and for us after all this time, after all the pain and all the chaos. What happens when the mask refuses to come off?